And this is where, as the membership as an example, is waiting for an announcement from Harold or somebody or the guides. They're not going to tell people how to live. They have to discover that for themselves. And besides, is the government here? Do you ever hear the president talking about the chemtrails or GMO food? He's not going to tell the public about it because they're controlling. Is he going to tell the public about HAARP and all the storms and earthquakes they're creating with that machine? Is he going to tell the public? Is he going to tell them how lethal the vaccines are and the smart meters and on, and the pharmaceuticals? No, because they're the ones doing it. They want to keep the deception going. And so you're not going to hear it from the corporation or Harry or Joni because this is really a good business for them. And it's okay. This is a business world. This is why I called it the new presentation, simply because it is new and it is a presentation. It has nothing to do with any of the labelization here. It's very real and very direct, but in the same sense, on this level, it is also a business, and the Solar Vessel Project is a business, and so we won't be reinventing the wheel here. We will be working along the lines of what makes sense in this mechanical world, and at the same time educating people about the natural environment, and that becomes the focus to make better choices. It's not a perfect system here because it's physical, but we do the best we can because there's huge resistance that doesn't want it, even though the politicians and religious leaders talk about, we need to clean up the environment, we need to make better choices. Those are just pretty words. Do you see them doing anything? Do you see them out there with their shovel and planting trees? No. They just do the pretty words. And when people try to do something, there's many films also. There's many documented things, and just silly things like I saw this one documentary, this one film that was this little video on YouTube where these people were having a picnic in the park somewhere. I don't know where it was. And it was organic food and whatever. They had a meeting. There was 10, 20, 30 people. And the local authorities came along, the health department or whatever, and actually took the food and dumped it in buckets and put something on it, bleach or something, I don't know, something ridiculous. This is the world today, and you're seeing this all the time. You're seeing the police brutality. You see it all over Facebook. You see all these radical things taking place because even though these ideas are implied in society, they're really not so. Not so at all. And it makes people more fearful, more controlled. And it's very, very real. So either you wake up and you stay lost in the matrix, or you stay lost in the matrix, I should say. It's a choice. Again, it's not good or bad. It's not about morals or ethics or, he's a good person and this is this and such. It's simply about choice. Simply look at your agreements. What are you agreeing to? And for billions of people, getting up each day, starting their car, poisoning themselves and everybody else is a way of life. And I suggest that, and I've suggested this many times, people can go on YouTube. They can run their car on water. It might cost you $500 or $1,000, but just think what you are doing as one person. That's a start. The technology is already available for everybody to have free energy and whatever, but that is not the solution for one's real awareness. But it is making a better choice here physically. So it's good to understand the different levels of life and your real awareness, because it's not about how much money you make, how much position you have, and what you can do here, freely walk around. It's really about waking up, because guess what? You're still growing old. And at some point, you're going to forget this lifetime, and you're going to stay lost, and you will come back into future lifetimes, and you will have forgotten that you were here, and it's going to be a lot worse, because it's more than evident of what is taking place. So this is, like Val said after he attended a few Skype meetings, this is a no-brainer. Right, Val?
Yeah. And then I did have a question came up, too, about, I figure this is because the state of the world today, and we've been prepared, but what difference is it how we're being brought up also very quickly, it seems like, in Paul's day when he brought up a lot of people very quickly. There's I see similarities that it seems like there's an urgency here too with the way things are.
Yeah, there's only so much time. That's very real. And, just like Fukushima is an excellent example, and if people really study what took place, that was not an earthquake. That was purposely done. There's a whole lot more to it. I suggest people that was purposely done. And those people that were in that earthquake, I've seen them in the tidal waves that took place that moved very quickly. I've seen them in the astral worlds, and they've got a lot of lifetimes to go just to balance themselves out because the shock that they went through is huge. And there are thousands upon thousands of them. And so, yes, anything can happen in this world. Politically, what we're seeing, like in Syria, that's all a setup. That's World War III. It's quite obvious. And so there's a lot of things happening on the planet. I suggest people look at the Internet, and more so than the 6 o'clock news, because that's all programmed to keep people unaware. It's just very, very real. This is how the world is. Because there's a lot of cattle out there, okay? And they don't want the cattle to run wild. And we have the gun issue here and all this stuff and the red flags with these school shootings, etc. A lot of people know about this. They're waking up. They have the courage to face this and to just be real. It's not about rebelling. It's not about destroying others. This is what has taken place for a lifetime. It only adds to more drama and situations. The reality is that as you become more aware, you make better choices, you create your own situation, and that's what we're doing here. We're creating a new position. We're not rebelling against the system. We're not against the systems. We're not against anything. We're just working with the natural environment and making sense of our lives. It's just that simple. So we don't really have the time to demonstrate, but we do have the time to do funny things on Facebook and let people know. We take the time to have the Skypes, our Skypes every day, and radio shows for those people that do want to know more and wake up. But to get out of the matrix, you need the real connection. You really do. The old ways worked for a while to a certain point. Really, they really didn't take anyone out of creation. But the new you does all the way, and the guidance is there. And yes, in a way, there is kind of an expediency because, again, the world is making choices, and it really doesn't even have to make choices anymore. It's on automatic. In other words, the agreement is on a subliminal level that most people don't understand, even though they have the outer information and knowledge about what's taking place. They are still controlled. It's not just saying, oh, I know this or I know that. For the most part, most people are subconsciously controlled, and those, the deceptors that rule this world, they know this. They don't care if people have the knowledge. They don't care if they spread it around, because they control them unconsciously, especially in their astral bodies. These shapeshifters are physical, astral, and they do it in the back of the astral body where most people are not aware in their dreams. These different projects that the governments have had for the longest of times, for hundreds of years, thousands of years actually, they do all this stuff. And they work in the lower astral worlds, and they tap line people in the back of their astral body, so they control them subconsciously. And this subconscious control reflects into the physical in its own particular way, into certain types of agreements, like a person that's hypnotized, and there are certain trigger words that make them react a certain way, and this is how it's done. And this is what most people don't believe. Will use that idea that they can't do that, that can't be so, because I never saw it on the 6 o'clock news, or my mom or my teacher never told me that, or the president never talks about that. Well, guess what? They're doing a whole lot more than you can even imagine, etc. So if you want to stay unaware and unconscious of where you're at, then just keep doing what you're doing, because you've already agreed to the deception and to the demise of the planet by simply living your daily life and just thinking that everything is fine. So until you really decide to take on the adventure like Robin Hood and James Bond and Indiana Jones, because life is about survival, it is not about satisfaction. personal satisfaction only. Yes, we do have our personal life, but at the same time, life here is about survival, and real survival is with your real awareness, and that's where you become self-sufficient to where nothing can touch you again. Yes. And that becomes the real adventure, but you have to learn to see and recognize it. That's huge, and for most people, they will not let go, especially of their emotional attachments and the memories that they've created, and also the future that they project that isn't here yet. And yes, people have a lot of nice ideas about the future, but what they don't see is that what others are agreeing to, which is creating a future of demise. So it doesn't matter what you think, it's what's going to take place according to the overall consciousness, and that is the deception that's already taken place and is already being demonstrated how it is destroying the planet and the natural environment. So soon it will be like Mars here. We only have so much atmosphere, and it's basically all poisoned. And just like Mars, eventually they already have the underground silos. Those certain few are going to run to the underground and live underground. So if you want to be underground with them for future lifetimes, that's the future, is going to be underground on this planet, because the surface is being destroyed, terraformed, as Chris would say it here, as Chris was in the military. And, so much of the military is controlled by these people. They really don't even know what they're doing, how they're adding to their own demise. And the interesting thing is, many of these people that are are being controlled by the controllers to control the masses, they themselves will end up in the same spot. They just don't realize it yet, but they will. And so again, cause and effect karma also, the lords of karma and all these things entail here. Everybody must meet themselves, so a lot of these people have many, many more lifetimes, thousands of lifetimes to meet what they have decided here presently. So with our position, the real guides, yes, take care of the karma, take care of a lot of things. If the individual is sincere and earns their way, they must earn their way individually. Nobody is drug along or carried. This is not a welfare program. It's to where each person decides to wake up and do their homework and become real with themselves. And then all of a sudden, you see that, hey, this is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to free yourself from all the deception and restrictions and nonsense that you've been marketed with. But again, a lot of people will agree to this marketing ploy. That's their choice. But that becomes the test. It's all about choice, is what it's about. Again, not good or bad or this or that, right or wrong, Democrat or Republican or all these things that have been invented. It's about choice, the choices that each person makes every moment, and that's learning to live now. And as you learn to live now, you start to see how life is. Not only the appearance of creation around you, this is not life, this is creation, and everything you see around you has been created. The trees created themselves, the grass, etc. Everything became so. And I know a lot of people like to think, oh, gee, there had to be a beginning and God created it all. Well, those are nice stories, aren't they? Well, actually, this has always existed, because each individual has, you might say, the power of creation. But this is where people have trapped themselves also, not realizing that there is more to life than creation itself, but this is the starting process, just like a caterpillar makes its own cocoon to eventually become the butterfly. And so it is at whatever point the individual decides to wake up and be the butterfly. So the process can be short, or it can be long. It just depends upon the individual and how they pay attention accordingly. So, this is the real adventure, life is, and it's all about choices, and anything can happen, and it will. Yes, go ahead, Val.
No, that's about all I had. Maybe Kelsey has something.
Yeah, that was all really good. I tested you, and last night I was a Catwoman on the real side, and I had a lot of fun adventures. Yeah, you can do it for yourself. It's fun. It's cool. It's wonderful.
Did you go trick-or-treating on the real side, too?
No, I didn't do that.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. I have a couple of things myself. One of them is about creation and control. I'm going to try to provide a little bit of an analogy here for people to relate to, and that is with the game, okay, like Monopoly, Parker Brothers, right? Parker Brothers Monopoly, where the idea is to compete with each other and take control of the board. You know, when we were kids, I remember when I was a kid, we had a actual baseball diamond built behind our house, and the only time you could play baseball is if somebody had a baseball. So when the neighborhood kid who had the baseball would come along, we all played. But when they had to go home for dinner, the game was over. Sometimes the little guy would be a stickler. You know, he'd say, "Well, it's my ball. I make the rules." Okay, and on Earth, there are all these created systems: the financial system, the politics, religion, any of them. Okay, they created their system. They make the rules, and if you want to play, if you want to take part, then you have to obey their rules. That's how they've got these set up, especially the financial system, right? Well, you want these dollars? Well, you got to play our rules. Right? You got to go to work. You got to sacrifice your hours and heartbeats and all these things. You've got to follow our rules, otherwise you don't get to play. You don't get to have the reward that we created for you. You know, your 401k, your nice house, your car, your beautiful wife, whatever. Okay? If you don't play, you don't get paid. So that's just a basic idea of how control is used here. If you take a step back and you start to recognize your attachments, your tap lines, and become indifferent to these things, you see all of a sudden that you actually don't need to play by their rules. You can create your own position. You basically you decide your position. So that's about that for that. Any comments? Anybody have a comment on that?
I have something, yeah. I want to share about tap lining a little bit. It's like, sometimes we think, or we might think that we can actually see through this, but the control is so deep. It's like an onion with different layers, and there are all these layers, and it just keeps going, and you don't really know. You can't really know. It's like when I came across Duane's presentation maybe like 11 months ago, I really felt that there were certain things controlling me, influencing me, but I didn't know what. And as soon as I heard his perspective about tap lines, started reading his books and things started getting clearer. And really, what I see now is that it's like he knows the center of that onion, and if you don't know, you just can't. You can't remove these layers. You don't even know that they're there. You might feel, and this is what I had. I could feel these influences, but I didn't know where they were coming from. I didn't know anything. I just experienced the effects, and it was actually influencing me. It was even having an effect on my physical body, and this is really a big part. We might think we can see this, but the onion is huge, and it's really, it cannot be seen. And every day now, this is for 11, 12 months, every day something just is like taken away from me by being on this. And it's very subtle, but suddenly it's a big thing that leaves you, and it really is freeing. It's wonderful, but the onion is huge, and this is really real. You need this connection. If you don't have this view, if you don't have the help, I had no idea there's no way I could do this, or I could even have some kinds of layers removed without seeing that.
Yes. Well, one of the things that I forgot to mention there was about the rules, and this, Dimitri, you reminded me, is the agreement. So as long as you decide to agree with the rules that someone else has created, the limitations that someone else has created for you, then they can control you. you see this in baseball, right, or the NFL or any of these professional sports leagues. They're always changing the rules. There's rules changes every year, and people keep agreeing to them instead of just going out, into the neighborhood and having a football and playing together and everybody has fun. No, they got to add rules, and that's how the systems of Earth work too. They just keep adding rules and more restrictions, more limitations, and there you have the layers of the onion like you're talking about, and people pile these on. And a great demonstration of that is in the movie Labyrinth with David Bowie, where the little girl kind of falls into a trash dump and she meets a woman with all sorts of things on her back, and she's all hunched over, and her hair is gray and she's old and wrinkly. And she's Sarah, right? The little girl's name. She's putting things on Sarah's back for her to agree with. And before long, Sarah's, bent over, hunched over. But then she recognizes what her intention was and why she was there in the first place. And she sees through all of these agreements and frees herself. Just like you're saying with the layers of the onion.
Yeah, and you're not seeing it. It's about agreement, but how are you going to remove an influence on your astral body if you can't even see it? And this is really, I was looking for this, but I didn't understand. I had no idea, and now you just sing the new you. You go through this whole process, and you don't even have to see your astral body, but you start to feel how it starts to be cleared. This is what is so wonderful. Yeah, you don't have to see the agreement that you have, but they're still being worked on, if that makes sense.